Your niche. Refining your sweet spot recipe. That's what today's show is all about on Saturday morning Marketing Smarties. Refining your sweet spot recipe. That's what today's show is all about on Saturday morning. Now, the funny thing is I've got the music turned off and I can still hear it. So maybe it's just me. When I said that, could you guys still hear the music?
Well, okay. I was hearing a rebroadcast for somewhere, so maybe you're watching the event somewhere else.
It could be. Give me a minute and I'll figure this out. It's got to be me, but I just don't know where. I've got so many windows open, and that's probably the problem.
Look for the one with a speaker when you're not talking.
You may not see the speakers with that many tabs open. I don't hear it now, Roland, so unless you're still hearing it.
Yeah, gee, thanks, Tim.
What?
I think I found it. All right. So that was an interesting intro. Hi, welcome to Saturday Morning Marketing Smarties. I kind of foiled my own intro there by breaking one of the primary rules of starting Hangouts. And that is, I didn't have one of the windows that displayed the event shut off, or at least silenced before we started. So what happened is after we get going, all of a sudden it's rebroadcasting back into the Hangout. So sorry about that. Hi, everybody, and good day to you. It is Saturday morning here, but it's not Saturday morning everywhere. And my name is Roland from MinMax Media, where we bring the minimum you need for the maximum impact. And we are broadcasting live on DIYLivestreamingshow.com, the home of the VCP plugin and Saturday Morning Marketing Smarties. So welcome and thank you for joining us. I don't think there's anybody out there, but it doesn't matter to me. We're going to talk on it anyway.
Barbara DeLucio is here.
Oh, hi, Barbara. Is she over in the YouTube side?
She is in the VCP plugin this morning.
Well, that's great to know, because at least we know that the plugin page and the event page for the Smarty Show is indeed working and it's functioning full bore. So that's great. Make a little comment there, Barbara, please, and just say hi. Let everybody know where you're coming from. There's her hi. I see it. So that's cool. And thank you very much for showing up and basically reassuring that our functionality is 100%, or as far as I know. We were dealing with the concept of notifications earlier. And even though we try to make notifications complete, in other words, we send out an invitation a few days before the event, And I'm getting better and better. We're getting 3 days out, 4 days out, and so forth, in order to notify people of the event. But the reminders don't always connect, and I can't explain why. I don't know why they don't are not more efficient, but it may have to do with individuals' settings on their own accounts, how they get notifications and how they get reminders and those things. So if anyone out there is wondering, I didn't get a notification or I didn't get a reminder, it could be us and it could be you. Just to wrap it up in the long and short of that. But anyway, I am not the only one in the green room, so let's have Bill come on and tell you a little bit about himself. He is my co-host for the show, and he's a marketing smarty for sure. So Bill, say hi and tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Happy Saturday, everyone. My name is Bill Graham. My website is billdoesbelize.com. And from there, I share unbiased information, or what I refer to as the unbelievable truth, to help people make an informed decision on retiring or making a permanent move to Belize.
Very good. Excuse me. Thank you. And also with us today, and by the way, we're working on Bill's title because he is the co-host, but the reason that he is so valuable to the show is he is managing the comments from various directions. One of them is from YouTube, and the other is from the VCP plugin page on DIYLivestreamingshow.com. And the VCP plugin page, this is the main event page. So the Google Plus event page, that's not the main event page. That's a guide for the invitations and for the notifications. And then the objective is to drive everybody to DIY Live Streaming Show and into the VCP plugin presentation, the event. And that's where we really want everybody participating. So all the links, the ones in the descriptions and the ones in the YouTube description and the event page description, all lead and point to DIY Live Streaming Show. And if you find yourself there watching and commenting, you're where it's at. You're where we would love you to be. And there will be some limitations to that. It's a bit more bogged down if you're on a cell phone, but it is indeed viewable on a cell phone. Or if you're having trouble with a cell phone, you can go to the YouTube presentation and watch us there. And you won't be able to comment as easily, and it's a little bit less engaging, but you can view it there. So if you like to do that, please do. Now, it's not just me and Bill, it's also Tim Longwell from Longwell Art, and he's working on a project right now to use the VCP plugin for classes. So Tim, come on board and just tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what you're doing.
Helps turn on the mic. Good morning, Smarties, and welcome. Glad I could be here today. Thanks for inviting me along. Like I said, Roland mentioned, my name is Tim Longwell with Longwell Art, and I'm kind of taking things a little different. I do create art. I plan on continuing to create art, but at the same time, I'm looking at expanding into some new avenues that we'll discuss later on in the discussion.
Would help if I turn my mic on. Yeah, Tim is working on some very interesting things, and I really believe that he's going to be creating an impact point for many people with art and learning and expressing himself on what he loves, which is really the key to all of this. So fourth in the green room was Andrew Hatchett. We call him Andy, and he's in charge of a community that he developed with, I always have trouble remembering his name right off the bat.
Michael Daniels.
Sir Michael Daniels.
I want to call him Dan somebody. Michael Daniels. I am sorry, Michael. I know your name. I don't know why I've got a mental block on doing your name live. But Michael Daniels and Andrew put this community together, and it's all about helping people. And that's why I love the fact that he's here today. He gets a lot of information from a lot of directions, and he's smart enough to tell you the what's for and give you a proper assessment of what he understands and what he knows. So, Andy, come on board and tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Roland, for having me. My name's Andy Hatchett. I live in Hermitage, Tennessee. And as Roland says, I run an online community, basically just to help people with their hangouts on there, and the apps that go with doing that. I don't get into the marketing end of it. I stay on the technical side of it more than anything else. I do 5 shows a week. Well, actually 10 because I'm on twice a day, but it's all on my little lower third. If anybody wants to come by, feel free. I like it here because I get to see another side that I don't contemplate a whole lot. And it helps me with my members if they ask me something. I've got other resources where I can point them to. I say, you need to talk to Tim. You need to talk to Heather. You need to talk to Bill. You need to talk to Roland or somebody. It's like I don't have all the answers, but I probably know people who do. That's my main job, is to direct people to where they can get the help they need the quickest.
That's it. And Andy helps people answer the questions that they have. And one of the philosophies that I had for all the time I've been in this is that you have to be willing to give first. You have to be willing to help people. And the concept I had was, if somebody wants to know what the local donut shop is, I'm gonna help them find that donut shop. You know, just because they're not going to be a client or a customer or buy something from me doesn't mean that I can't be a human being and communicate with them and help them out regardless. So if you like donuts, just call Roland. No, I'm just kidding. But I mean, the idea is there, and so I hope that it makes some sense. Now, the concept that we have for today is refining your niche. And the first thing that I want to start off with is refining your niche is not about looking around you and finding out what you want to sell or what you want to participate in. That's not finding your niche. So the very first thing that you have to avoid, or that is scrutinize carefully, is that what's coming down the pipeline, because the internet being our pipeline, the internet is full of things that you think you might want to buy, but are really bad ideas. Now, I can make that statement based on personal experience and the feedback that I get from almost everybody I know. And you know, we've all heard of the Pareto principle, or the concept that 20% of our efforts are responsible for 80% of our results. And the 20-80 rule, and people know it by one description or the other, but the basic concept is that the meat of what we produce, 80% of what we produce is valuable because of 20% of our efforts, or 20% of what we're doing, which basically means 80% of what we're doing may be less important or less effective. And the concept of min-maxing and the minimum you need for the maximum impact is focus on the 20%. That's what you need to do. If you know, we are entrepreneurs, which implies a lot of things. We are working by ourselves, or we have a few associate partners. We have a little bit of help, but not as much as we'd like to have. We would love to have a team, a marketing team, and a content team, and a bunch of people to powwow with and brainstorm. And people think, I can't do that, I'm by myself. Well, I am too, but I've got a Smarties show. I've got people sitting in the green room with me. I have collaborators that I have learned a ton of information from. So nobody's alone. If you want to be alone, you can be alone, but you do not have to be. Not in this day and age, not with our technology, and not with things like Hangouts on Air and YouTube and your own website and the VCP plugin. You're able to create an interactive engagement event that's ongoing and weekly or daily or whatever you want to do, where you can achieve what we're talking about here and now. So, and by the way, it doesn't cost a hell of a lot of money to do what we're doing, but it does take a little bit of know-how, and it takes some common sense, and it's not something you may be perfect at overnight, but you got to get started somewhere. And the first thing that, like Mike Koenig's book, Mike Koenig, and it's spelled Koenig. It looks like Koenig or something, but I think his name is pronounced Mike Koenig. And if you look him up, Mike is terrific. The guy is zooming in hyperspace on the live streaming world. But the basics, he brings people back down to the basics. And he's got a book that he wrote in 2015 that is still pertinent today. And the reason it's still pertinent today was he deals with the basics and the fundamentals, what you look like on camera and what you're going to sound like and your environment and good audio, good video, and where you position yourself on the camera and framing and lighting and stuff like that. And am I perfect if I have a perfect studio? No, but I'm close enough to be effective for what I want to do. So do you have to be that 100% perfect? No, but you have to focus on the 20% that gets the 80% results. And I'm satisfied that I'm able to do that pretty well with how we produce this show. And all of it's done through YouTube Live, the VCP plugin, and WordPress location, and communicating through social media. That's what it's all about. So it emphasizes the internet marketing tripod of website, social media, and YouTube video, and just keeps it based on those things. Now, do people want to get into Instagram? Do people want to branch off into Facebook and advertising? You can do that if you want, but it pays to concentrate on these things first to get a foundation from which to launch your campaign. And in most cases, and not all cases, but in most cases, those three things, the website, social media, and your YouTube campaign, those things are essential. And if you start there, you can't go wrong. You may end up emphasizing one over the other or two out of the three, but those three things are very good places to start. So that's what this show is all about. Anyway.
And you were mentioning there that we're not alone, and I just wanted to acknowledge that we are not alone. Lon McClure has joined us, along with Barbara DeLucio, as we mentioned earlier, in the VCP plugin. But also Dr. Margaret Aranda is over in the YouTube, and she says she keeps getting directed to a show from about a month ago. So I would just encourage her. She is in the right YouTube comment stream, so the link below the video that she's watching should work and bring her to the VCP plugin. So yeah, I would encourage her to do that, because the comment stream she is in is going to be gone after the event.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I'm really glad to hear Barbara and Lon. Loved having you here. And Dr. Margaret, I hope you click the link there and can find yourself on the VCP event. But we're going to carry on, and hopefully if we can help guide you, ask questions in the comment stream, and we'll do the best we can to get you here. So there's a lot to understand about finding your niche. And the first thing is your niche is not something outside yourself. If you are looking for that opportunity, you're not looking for your niche. You're not even going to be successful finding something, more than likely. Can you find something to sell? Probably. There's tons of stuff out there. Can you find a lucrative way to sell? Maybe so. A lot of people do it. There's tons of affiliate marketers out there. And, just because I forgot to say, Mike Koenig, and the reason that I brought up Mike Koenig is one of the first things he says is look into the microphone. Never look away from the microphone. If you're interviewing somebody or doing whatever you're doing, always look. No, I'm misspeaking. Look into the camera, not the microphone. The camera's over there. Look into the camera. Keep your eyes on the camera, because of the people on the receiving end are looking at the playback, and it looks like you're looking at them. Well, I can't possibly run my show by looking at the camera. I can't do it. I've got too much information. I've got too much going on. So one of the things that I've been doing for over 2 years now is looking to the side of the camera and then occasionally looking at the camera. So I hope you people will excuse me, and Mike will excuse me for not following almost his prime directive when you start live streaming, and that is that I'm not looking at the camera as much as I should be. But tough. Anyway, moving on. The things that I wanted to bring up regarding the niche finding is that the niche has to start with, what do you love to do? It's got to be something from the heart. It's got to be your choice. It's from the inside out. Your niche is something inside you already. Something, either if you don't do it yourself, it's got to be something you love to be around, love to be exposed to. And if you have that love for something, your niche very well might evolve from that. And the reason I say evolve from that is it is going to take time, diligence, and really dedication to your concept in order for your niche to pan out in the internet marketing world. Now, I call it the internet marketing world. Your goal might just be to have a gang of people on a movement that focuses on having fun. And a good example of it is Andy Hatchett. He's got a niche, but he's not deriving a monetary gain. He's simply doing what he loves to do. And so he's got a community around that. He's got a life. He's got friends. He's got all this associative stuff that happens in his niche because he's doing what he loves to do. And could he do this without payback if he didn't love to do it? I'll let Andy answer that. Could you possibly keep on doing what you were doing if you did not love it?
Every night when I open my show, or every day, I have no idea who's going to show up or if anybody shows up. But I love doing what I do well enough that I'm willing to sit there for half an hour, even if nobody shows up, just on the chance that they'll show up and I can give them help. I'm going to be there, unless, of course, I overnap, which I've known to do on occasion. But when you get to be my age, you're allowed to do that, But most of the time, I have no idea. Bill will tell you. He'll come in sometimes 20 minutes after. He'll be the first one in there. And I've been sitting there 20 minutes handling my mail over on the other side or something, but I'm there in case somebody comes in. I enjoy doing it that much.
That's cool. And that's the point of it all, is like you're deriving pleasure out of this because you know you're helping people. And that takes dedication, and that takes the love that Andy feels for his concept that keeps him there day after day, day after day. And by the way, if you don't show up, it's no big deal because nobody's paying you a paycheck. So you have nobody to answer to, and it's fine. And that's kind of
but I hate to disappoint them when they show up and I'm not there. That hurts me.
Yeah, I've seen the concept of your posts that sometimes say, if nobody's there, start a hangout and just hang out yourself and, invite people to join you. So it's like hangouts are versatile enough that people can engage if they want to engage. Mm-hmm. And they're not dependent upon you, but it's good to have you around.
Thank you.
So the concept of a niche is not necessarily based on money, because as a matter of fact, and I think Tim might follow up on this in a moment, if you base it on money, you are not going to succeed. I mean, the people I've been reading lately, Ben Hunt is a big one. They basically say if you focus the whole thing on money and profits, you're going to have a problem, and you're probably going to fail. And the philosophy of why you're going to fail is immense. It's really something to study. But if you focus on the money, something's going to be out of place, and it's not going to work. And if we have time, we'll get into more of what Ben Hunt teaches. But at the moment, I would like to lean on Tim a little bit to talk about if you were really focusing on the money, there may be a problem. And I think that you've got evidence to this. Before we go on, we have a comment from the field.
Yes, it's from Kathy Pop. She says, you can be successful, but will you be happy? Probably not. If you're doing what you don't love you probably won't be happy if you're doing what you don't love or enjoy. You may as well have a job that you don't like. My latest tagline is transforming entrepreneurs into funpreneurs.
I like that tag. That's very cool. And Kathy Pop, thank you for joining us. I appreciate you being there. And that's a lady that if you haven't followed her, she's got a lot of important things to say. So I would definitely connect with her and engage in conversation. She makes some really very important she connects the dots, and like to have her around. Thank you very much, Kathy. So the concept that we're moving to is the idea of developing a niche and not basing it on money. Now, if this Saturday morning Marketing Smarties show was based on money, we'd have folded a year and a half ago or 2 years ago. But I don't do it for the money. I do it because I love giving people something that's honest, a little bit refreshing, and as truthful as I can get. I don't have an edge, or I don't have a stake in getting them to do something, so I'm not going to roll off the truth in order to make a buck. And that's part of being authentic, and it's part of being all the things that they say are essential in marketing today. You can only be authentic, you can only be honest if you do these things from the heart. And everyone will come up with an idea of why that's not true. And you can lean on that and twist it around. But I really believe what I just said. And if you start with that, everything else will follow. Everything else will fall in place, and you'll find your niche. And eventually, if you do what you love, you will get paid for it. Eventually, you'll get paid for it. There'll be a way. So, Tim, I wanted to bring you on now and talk about your niche, what you've developed, and that essence of whether you were doing it for the money or not should come into the play in this conversation. So come on board and let's hear what you have to say about these things.
Yeah, that's one thing. As an artist, it's real easy for people to see whether or not you're doing it for the money or not, or you're doing it for the love of art. As another artist, as a possible collector or whatever, if you're doing art, which is my niche, broad niche, by the way, for money, it's going to show up in the work, which means you've just taken something away from it. So now it's not as appealing to your audience. So if you make art or whatever your passion is, because of your passion, then the business side of it falls into place as long as you do the right steps for a business. But if you're focusing on the cash flow, both your passion and the business are going to suffer. The other thing I've noticed is sometimes we don't drill down far enough in our niche. For example, go to Google or YouTube and type in the word art and hit enter, and look how many results come up. Put in art lessons. and see how many results come up. But you know, the thing about art, if you're doing art as a passion, and if you're not doing art, you should be doing some kind of creative works. And that's where you're drilling down into the niche evidence can come in. There's art therapy out there. There's meditation for artists. There's art for nonprofit organizations. There's art for a lot of different things out there. But you got to remember, your passion needs to be making you happy. And the neat thing about it, art, and where I'm taking my niche, is that what makes me happy most is to help other people. That's my art, and making people happy are my passion. Even in my art business, my art was always created for the love of the art. And I wasn't targeting, oh, I hope somebody likes it, or whether or not this is good enough for this much money or whatever. That was never a factor. I actually got into the art business because of a good friend of mine and very famous artist. If I mention his name, sadly, most people won't know, but if I mention his work, they know him instantly. And that is Dale Atkins. And Dale has done MGM, Universal, several movie posters for the different companies out there in Hollywood. But what he's known most for are his cowgirl and cowboy art and the covers of the Louis L'Amour novels.
Ah.
But he's doing what he loves. And the money came because he was doing what he loved. He got the contract for those covers. It wasn't going after the covers to do the art. It was the other way around.
That's one of the best examples I can think of. Is you don't start off doing what you're doing because you think that you can make money at it. You do what you love, and eventually you get paid for it. And I think that it applies to anything. And I don't know what it could not apply to. And people will give me plenty of reasons that are their own objections to that statement, and say, well, it doesn't work for me because of this and this and this. And I say to them, if that's the case, well, as soon as you raise your first finger, you are defeated. And I don't care what it is that you're going to tell me about. I know you're defeated because you're finding reasons to why you can say, why not? And
a good friend of mine for many years, his favorite term, because he was a chemical rehab I can't remember. There's a fancy name for it. Basically, he's a licensed social worker that specifically deals with chemical rehabilitation, alcohol, drugs, whatever. And he used his line in whenever he's presenting, and people that get to know him, he starts using it around them, is everything after but is BS.
Love it. And on the other side of the spectrum, and to teeter on the fence, I think isn't it the Henry Ford quote that is, whether you think you can or can't, either way, you are right. If you think you can or you think you can, you're right. So if you think you can, you're right. If you think you can't, you are also right. And it leads me back to the belief that we create our own reality. We determine our future. We indeed determine our niche by focusing on the things that we love. And Bill's got a comment from the field. Is Donald Buchanan actually out there in the audience, Bill?
He's on YouTube.
Okay,
yes,
cool.
He's over in the YouTube stream, and is sorry, I was muted while I was talking, I guess. And he has a question, and it's, how do I find out what I love to do? And I'd like to answer that first by saying you have to experience life, and the answer should come to you. Like, nobody can tell you what you love to do. So it's got to come from your heart and from within you. And I'd be interested in what other people have to say about that.
Well, I've got, first of all, Bill, you really wrapped it up in a nutshell. And what you said was perfect, because it really comes from the individual. Nobody can tell you how to find it. And it's kind of like one of those things you may have to sit on a mountaintop somewhere and do a little bit of meditation to figure it out. But I know for sure, this is from my experience. I know for sure that you feel better, you feel good, you feel joyous. Those things, expanding into your joy, is the whole idea of the niche. And if you're expanding into joy, when you think about a subject and you feel good and you feel better by dwelling on what this subject is, and you consider doing what you might be doing within that niche, or talking about what you would be talking about in that niche, how do you feel? That alone is the key indicator. If it makes you feel good, if it inspires you, and I differentiate between inspire and motivate. People who don't feel good can be motivated to do something anyway. But if you are inspired, that trumps motivation any day. Inspired people don't need motivation. They are their own motivation. And it's no longer motivation. Inspiration stands alone, and it makes you want to do something. Then you know you're in the right niche. But if you think of this niche and go, wow, I don't know how I'd make money at it. I don't see the plan. I don't have a concept of how I can profit, or what's my return on investment. I'm going to do all this studying and all this production and all this stuff, and I don't see a way to make a job out of that. Then you got a problem. And that alone may stop you from doing what you're meant to do. And what I will say about your niche, if it involves anything like this, is if it's something that makes you happy, it is something that makes other people happy too. And you're not going to be so small a niche that you might not have hundreds of thousands of people around the world that could benefit from what you do. It's just not mathematically feasible. You take the smallest niche around, and there'll be people who will listen and follow and want to join you on your movement and do what you are doing and follow your lead and buy your products, pay for your services. It will happen if you follow your heart. And so as far as finding your niche, this is the perfect conversation that leads to the concept of finding your niche starts with you. And if you're not finding a niche from within, then you're an affiliate marketer, and you're always going to be selling other people's stuff. And you know that you can make a living at that. That might be your love, selling other people's stuff. But for a lot of people, they're not affiliate marketers. They're not, because part of affiliate marketing is you've got to figure out a way to generate traffic. You have to have a mailing list on a subject. You have to have a blog. You have to have something that generates traffic, and then sell stuff on the side. And people are getting less and less open to side advertisements. And if you have too many advertisements on something, people will quit listening to your channel. And that is the problem with the concept of affiliate marketing. You've got to really be linked up as far as what your affiliate's sharing and making money on. You have to disclose that to the people, but what you're selling and what you're doing have to be the same concept. And it's a lot of work. So before you get into affiliate marketing, make sure that you've got super diligence, high diligence, a lot of patience, a lot of time, and are willing to do the work. But what finding your niche basically is, find something you love. And by the way, if you were to answer, well, I don't know what I love, I say, yes, you do. You know, because you're the only one that knows how you feel, and you know when you feel better. It might be thinking about your new girlfriend. It might be thinking about the new car you bought. It might be, but those things make you feel better. Okay, when it gets down to it, there's some reason behind the object or the person that makes you feel better. There's something on the underlying side that makes you feel better. By the same token, if you have a lot of negatives about something, it very well might be that some people need to go to a psychologist to figure out what's bugging them. Sure. And that's a part of life. But part of finding your niche is letting go of all the negatives and saying, I don't care if people tell me I can't do it. I don't care if people say it's a bad idea. I don't care if all of my friends don't agree with me. Still, this is what I love to do. This is what I want to do. By golly, I'm going to do it anyway. And the best example I have of this is myself. 2.5 years ago, I started the Saturday Morning Marketing Smarties show with one person. I had a hangout on air with Barbara Quick, who is somebody that most of you will actually know if you're watching this show. You know her as Mom or Barbara or, you know, whatever it is you know her by. But she's the most lovely person on the face of this earth, and she's just got a heart of gold. And all she does is give to people, everybody around her. But Barbara and I were the first two in the hangout where she was trying to learn something about live streaming and marketing and doing that. She was the only person watching the show. And that's how I started out. And I thought, am I even going to think to myself, like, let's see, maybe in the next show or two, I might charge Barbara $5 to show up and be a part of the gang. No, because the reason that I was doing it was to help Barbara and to help a few other people. And the following week, we had a handful of people, 3 or 4, who met on each week and got something out of what I was saying and what I was enticing people to speak about and what we were sharing. That's how Saturday Morning Marketing Smarties got started. And indeed, it has a better opportunity now. And I've been doing this so long that I've got a lot to share about the concept of Hangouts and live streaming and doing a show. Is it the same as what everyone else would say the best show on the internet would be? No, but I do have my opinion and my guidance that has some weight to it. And indeed, if there wasn't at least some value, I doubt that the rest of the people would be here in the green room with me. So we're pursuing some worthwhile stuff, and we're coming up with some really good concepts. And one thing that you might consider, Donald, is there something that you know that you can talk about the way I'm talking about the subjects today? Is there something that you could sit down for half an hour and get online and talk to other people in a small group and lead a conversation and feel good about? And I would say, I would start there. So live streaming is an important part. And a lot of times people can start with having hangouts, connecting to people and collaborating and talking, and get some feedback and see what people think about what you're talking about. And that might reinforce where your niche goes from there. So that's about the most I can dwell on with that. Ben Hunt, I love this guy. He recently wrote some articles. One of them was to take Ryan Dice. I still can't believe that people don't know who Ryan Dice is, but he's pretty much a pretty big figure in the internet marketing industry, and he sells concepts and he sells how-to formulas and stuff like that. And I'm not representing him very well, but basically I have grouped him into the group that gives a lot of good information. He does a lot of good information there. But the problem is he's not out really to help people. He's out to make money himself. And I could be wrong, and I would love to have him beg to be on this show so he can tell me the real truth about why he does what he does. And I would love to have him tell me what he's trying to do and what his objective is, and let the world know on the inside line what he's all about. But I doubt that it's going to ever happen. On the other hand, I would love way farther to have Ben Hunt come on to the show and drop his little nuggets and tidbits of truth about his view on marketing in this day and age. And I wanted to read something that he wrote in one of his last articles. It was on marketing strategy, and he referred to it as the elephant in the room, saying the concept of marketing strategy in the field of internet marketers is the elephant. It is the elephant in the room. Now, to expound upon this a little bit, this saying's meaning, as quoted by Quora, and I'm not saying that Quora, Quora.com, I'm not saying that it's the know-all and see-all of all the truths on the market, but it's what a lot of people listen to. And they came up with one thing that was fairly accurate, and that is the definition of the concept of elephant in the room. So Quora says, this is an English metaphorical idiom for an obvious truth that is either being ignored or going unaddressed. And we could analyze that, but I want to finish with what Quora says. The idiomatic expression also applies to an obvious problem or risk that no one wants to discuss. Now, that's what they say the elephant in the room is. And that's what Ben Hunt is saying marketing strategy is the elephant in the room. So the connection that I want to make is this. We don't know what the marketing strategy for us and our niche should be. We don't know. So what are we out there doing? We're out looking at the overall field of what's happening on the internet and saying, oh, this sounds like a good idea. I think I'll try that. Oh, that looks good. This one's only $9.95. I think I'll try that. I can afford that. And different things you're out there reaching for. And here's where the Pareto principle, or the 20% to the 80%, the 20-80 rule, here's what comes in. Since the beginning of days of Smarties, I felt that 20% of the internet is working off of honest, truthful, from the heart information that's of any value. And 80% of it is a bunch of bullshit. Now, I'll let you absorb that for a minute, and we'll see what someone has to say from the field. Inspiration trumps motivation.
Yeah, the first comment I have of a couple is from Dr. Margaret. She says, inspiration trumps motivation. That makes sense. Very nice. And this is going back before you transitioned to Ben Hunt. Kathy Pop asks Donald, what could you imagine doing that you will never get tired of? What are you good at? Which is a good place to start in finding your passion. And I think he answered the question. He says, I love to get to the bottom of things and expose the truth, but I don't know how I would make a living at that. And I would suggest by just starting and doing it and reporting on the things that you're passionate about.
You know, I love that this conversation is going on the side of this, because I would challenge Donald to talk to us even directly, and even get into a hangout with us private. Doesn't have to be a broadcast, so a hangout, not a hangout on air, and talk about this a little bit. Because the concept is, if you were focusing on the concept of, I don't know how I'd make a living on it, that's the thing holding you back. That's the thing keeping you from developing the niche. Now, in everywhere else in the world, marketers are saying, pick a niche, develop a niche. What's your niche? And what they're trying to ask you is, what's the little minuscule, small little thing that you could focus on that nobody else is focusing on? If you're thinking, I don't know how I could make a living at that, you've identified the exact niche that everybody else is going to want when you're successful. Does that make any sense? Because you don't know how you can make a living out of it. But that's the result of doing it and sharing it and doing what your niche calls you to do. And if you see doing something and you're loving doing this, eventually you'll figure it out. Eventually you'll figure out how you get paid. And do I know how I'm going to get paid by doing Marketing Smarties? No, not exactly, but I know that people have it's led to some web design. It's led to some various training. It's led me to develop the VCP plugin, which I am still convinced offers the best engagement possible on the internet. And I'm very proud of the fact that no one's been able to duplicate it. And I'm still going to focus on giving the plugin away free. And everyone else around me is from the traditional marketing standpoint of, no, you could put $59.95 on the price tag, or you could develop a membership concept, and you could charge some money, and you could make millions of dollars on this concept. And I'm saying, I know that theory is there. I know that works. But it goes against the principles of why I started this show, Marketing Smarties, in the first place. And that is to help people. So I would say if your niche that you're talking about that you can't figure out is how it could possibly turn into something that you can make a living on, if it's that type of thing, consider that there are other people who want to know what you're talking about and what you're sharing and what you're emphasizing. And if there are people who want to know, there is a way to make a living at that. And we don't know the answer now, but it's coming. So I would say if you want to talk about it further, let's do.
And I think the starting point sometimes has to be without the intent of making money. I mean, you've all heard me say many times, if you're giving and expecting something in return, you're doing business. You're not doing charity, and you're not helping people. And I think if you do something because of your love to do it, you're going to show the passion. You're going to be able to answer questions without having to do research, because the fact that you're passionate, you've already done the research. And people are going to see that. And probably in Donald's case, for example, I mean, he might find that after writing for 6 or 8 months, somebody with a big magazine might want to hire him or whatever. I mean, there's the people out there that relate to what you're saying will tell you eventually how money can be made at it. But the idea is to start doing it because you love it, not because you need to make a paycheck on Friday.
That's exactly right. And that's the breakaway that happens to almost everybody when they're trying to be their own bosses and trying to create their own business. And even if they have a business that supplies a great service or a great product to people, they're going, I've got all this stuff here that is worth something. Why can't I sell it? And it very well be because they're not putting their love into it, and they're not expanding into their joy with their product and service. And unless you are, you're not going to share joy. You're not going to bring the vibrations that are good and positive that are really going to make you successful. So I say to Donald, find the way to market what you do later, and make sure that there are people who want to know what you know and want to do what you do, and might want to ask you for help concerning your subject. Because if they do want to know more, if they do want your help on a subject, that means you've got a product and a service or something that is of value. And that's where it starts. If you find your value, you'll find your way to make a living. And so I would love to talk to you more, and we'll do it again. Even if you just stick with us on Saturday mornings or wherever you are, it might be afternoon where you are, it might be the middle of the night where you are. And I thank you for joining us either way. But Donald, the main thing is you don't give up. And the concept you have is probably good enough. It's probably easily what people will look at in the future and say, oh, look what that guy did. He made a living out of this. What a brilliant thing. What a great service to the people. But if you don't decide that you're going to do it because you love it, it'll keep you from ever doing it, and failing to offer that service to the world. And that is the great loss. If people stop doing what they're doing because they don't see how to make a living at it, the world loses. And I think that there's a lot that's lost that way. Now, on the contrary side of that, some people are focused on the money, and they're focused on how do I make a living at this? And they're reading all that other 80% of the stuff that's on the internet. Like, see, I wrote a few of them down here. These are the things capturing the other people who don't want to focus on their niche the way you're facing right now. Here's how to make a fortune. Here's how I made my fortune. In other words, somebody else used the system and figured out how to do something that actually made them money. Now they're describing their system that really has nothing to do with why they made their fortune, by the way. But they're describing their system and what they did. They're saying, here's how I did it, and I'm going to package it up, and the 7 easy steps to make a fortune. And I followed these rules, and this is how I made my fortune. Now, that's okay in that one case scenario. Is it going to apply to everybody? No. And it's going to apply to some people, and if they have a good enough concept, and if they have a likable concept where maybe that's similar, where the guy that made his fortune they can plug into the concept and it'll work for them, great, that's fine. But for most people, it's not going to work, because basically the way Ben Hunt says is you can't package up a strategy, transplant it to some other scenario, and expect it to work. Something's not going to fit. And that I found is very, very consistent. So what's happening with all these? Here's how I made my fortune. A 6-figure income in 90 days, thousands in increased targeted traffic. I love that one. Thousands in increased targeted traffic. Bullshit. With a money-back guarantee. No risk. No risk because you can get a money-back guarantee. You know how hard it is to get a money-back guarantee? It is so difficult that most people quit before they finish processing it. They say, oh, the hell with my $50, or the hell with my $10. I'm not going to bother. I've wasted hours on this thing, and I don't care if they ever give me my money back. But I quit. I'm done with them. So the people putting out these concepts that have thousands in increased traffic, 6-figure income in 90 days, and how the formula, the magic formula, the secret formula of how I made my fortune, they're counting on the fact that most people are never going to ask for or never going to insist on a refund. Now, that's part of their marketing plan. They know that they can keep people from getting their money back, and they get to keep the profits in their pocket. So are they doing this so they can give you a secret formula? No, they're doing these things to put money in their bank. And that's exactly why it works. And that's why exactly if you come up with a similar plan, you'll be marketing a 6-figure income plan for people and charging them $9.95 for a 6-figure income plan. Come on. If a 6-figure income plan was worth $9.99, they would be selling so many of them, and we would see all these testimonials of all the people who made the formula work. But I don't see that. I see a few testimonials and otherwise a bunch of bullshit. So Bill, who's saying?
I wanted to acknowledge our friend Mark Barris has joined us today. He says, good show rolling, and I like the comment format. So thank you, Mark, for that comment.
Cool. And Mark was one of the first ones in, I think, the user-to-user live community that I met and conversed with in a hangout on air 2.5 years ago. So Mark Barris, I think it was with Business Hangouts on Air. And I was asking questions about that. And I met Mark, and it was a good meeting. And thank you very much for showing up today. And I appreciate your comments on the comment stream. It's the thing that we've been working on for half a year now, or actually going on a year. Wow. Can't believe it. But I think that we've got something worth giving to the public, and that's what we're going to do. And I appreciate your comment on it being a good show. And that's a lot of help to me today. It really means a lot. So I've got all kinds of notes here, but our hour is about up. And we've been talking about expanding into your niche, expanding into your joy. And I think that we've touched on some of the most important things, that you've got to do something that you love. And once you do, we can talk about how to express, how to develop a following, and what's going to happen in the future, in the very near future, by the way, is we are going to have conversations about community. Now, the same way we kind of hit motivation versus inspiration today, next week, I want to hit networking versus community and what the differences are between networking and building a community. And they, on the surface, they sound pretty similar, but there's a big difference. And my takeaway on it is that networking is creating an opportunity for your outreach. And building a community is working on relationships. Networking is not building relationships. Community building is building relationships. And that's when you start talking one-on-one and connect with somebody. You're not networking. The networking is the act of meeting people and shaking their hand. From there on, if you build a relationship, you're building part of your community. And I don't mean that you're talking somebody into moving into your town and sharing dwelling space, but community online and community globally is who's in your pocket, who's in your circle, who's beyond your like group, who is integrating and becoming a friend online, a friend in general, and an associate, someone who begins to know, like, and trust you and would actually refer you if the need for your service or whatever is coming up. But the thing is, back to the concept of, if I'm trying to sell myself to you through this community, the people don't like that. So the building of the community is based on the relationship of how you're relating to the people, aside from the profits, aside from the benefits and the making of money. What is it, aside from the gain factor? What is it that you're establishing between the people? So we're going to talk about the difference between networking and community building next week. But in the meantime, unless anyone has anything to wrap up our conversations, we have something from Bill. Let's see what's, oh, he's preparing for our exit. And I guess I should do the same thing. It's an interesting thing. What we're doing is trying to learn how to make better shows. And I think that we've got a way now, although we proved today that we're not very good at it yet. We've worked out a way of starting shows and ending shows so that they have a little bit better impact and look a little bit more professional. So your comments in the comment stream after we finish here would be appreciated if you like our intros and outros. And I agree, I admit that we kind of bungled our start today. So let's see how we wrap it up. And I'll say thank you very much for tuning in to Saturday Morning Marketing Smarties. And I appreciate you folks out there. And thank you for joining. Roland signing off. Saturday Morning Marketing Smarties.